You are live. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, and good evening. And welcome to our Monday night Moshiach Shir, because Moshiach matters. All right. First, I want to dedicate tonight's class to two people close to us that need a refuah shlema, Elka Rachel Bas Eliza and Yosef Ben Bracha Aleah. Should have a refuah shlema along with all of Israel. So we're now starting over. This is a very interesting time because we're restarting the sequence of Nun Aleph Nun Beis, which is the beginning of the set known as Devar Malchus, the words of the king. These are the sichas that were given by our Rebbe, by our Melech, the final year of since his concealment, the most recent, we should say, that we have so far, has been revealed to us. And for an entire year, all these sichas are completely based on Mashiach and Geula, how we prepare for Geula. And that's what these sichas are about. That's what we learn every single Monday night. And we just started the sequence over again. So the actual first sicha is Vayikra. And the last sicha we learned last week, which was Pekudei. I'm sorry, V'yakel, there was no Pekudei. And now the sequence starts over again. So we begin with Vayikra, and we go for an entire year, which traverses through Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, 1991 and 1992, and ends with Pekudei. And God willing, way before Melech HaMashiach will reveal himself, and we will learn from his own mouth the Torah Chadash Mitzitetzi, the Torah Mashiach. So let's begin. It's not a coincidence that the first sikha of this series, known as Devar Malchus, is Vayikra. As we know that when you teach a child, it's quite a lengthy sikha. When you teach a child Torah for the first time, you do not start with the book of Reshis. You start with Vayikra. And it's a known inyan as to why you start with Vayikra. And the reason is, first of all, Vayikra is about Kabbalah's whole. It's not exciting. It's not like the book of Bereshis, where there's all kinds of awesome stories and midrashim. It's all about karbanos. It's about offerings. It's about relatively, seemingly boring subjects. So one might ask, why is this the first thing you teach a child? Because the most important thing for a child to know is what we call as Kabbalah's whole. In other words, it's less important for the child to understand all the details of why Hashem wants us to do these things. And more important to start off with, this is what Hashem wants. And Hashem is in charge. And Hashem has created us. And he's the boss. And he loves us and accepts us unconditionally. And in order for us to be a proper vessel, a proper receiver for that unconditional love and acceptance, we follow his will. We carry his will because he's our Father and he creates us. And Vayikra is all about starting with that premise. Starting with the premise of what we say is Kabbalah's Ol, where we just take things upon ourselves as a child does. And that's why the Rebbe chose Vayikra as the opening sikha of this series, to let us know that whatever you know or you think you know about Mashiach and Geula, or you presume you know about Mashiach and Geula, it's time to put it aside. It's time to become a child again and listen to the Rebbe's words and see what the Rebbe says with the innocence of a child, with the desire solely to create, to connect to our Creator and to accept what our Creator has put before us. So let's continue. Aleph, V'yom Shabbos Kodesh Zeh, Yishna Chidush Miyuchad, Shemetziin Shlosha Sifrei Torah. Now, just one more thing I want to preface, because we are starting, it is a pregnant year, it's a leap year, and therefore we're in the second month of Adar. So this sikha was originally given on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So a lot of these sikhas do take into consideration the time of year they were given, and that is going to we're going to be offset because we're now a month behind on the Hebrew calendar. So on that Shabbos, 3 Sefer Torahs were took out because Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Shachal Yos b'Shabbos Mitzuin Nishlosh Sfarim. Kurin Seder Hayoim. You read the parsha of the week first of all, and then you read the parsha of Rosh Chodesh, and then you read the special maftir for HaChodesh Shlishi, the parsha HaChodesh, which is a special one of the special parshas and haftorahs that we read leading up to Pesach. And this is something unique, the Rebbe says. Because the normal sequence is on Shabbat to only take out one Sefer Torah. And on certain occasions, you take out a second Sefer Torah. Come over Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. When Shabbos falls on Rosh Chodesh, B'kol Yom Tov, every Yom Tov we take out two Sefer Torahs. V'rak la'asim nidirois mitzion shlosha sefarim. And in the Rebbe said it's very rare that we actually take out three Sefer Torahs. Apam yechida b'kol shana shematzion shlosha sefarim hu b'simchas Torah. And the Rebbe said, and one of the times of the year that we do see that we take out three Sefer Torahs is on Simchas Torah. Motziim, just saying Simchas Torah after what we just went through this past Simchas Torah as Am Yisrael, I just felt my heart just kind of drop. But anyways, Motziim Shloshi Frei, the Korean Be'echad V'Zois HaBaracha Im Sefer Torah, because on Simchas Torah we read. The first thing we read is Zoita Baracha until the end of the Torah. And the second thing we read is Bereshis until Bar Elokim L'Asais. And the third thing we read, B'Shlishis Korim HaMaftir, is the Maftir. Ukama Shanim L'Kavios Bo'efen Miuchad Metziyoim Shlosha Sfarim Pam Sefes Kavikiyos Shana Zu Shavash Chodesh Nisan Shal B'Shabbat. But in that particular year that the Rebbe gave the Sikha, there was three Sefer Torahs given and read on that Shabbos. And the advantage that we're adding on in this year, Mitzad Kriyas Seder Hayoim, from the side of the daily part that we're reading, the Parshas Vayikra, which is Parshas Vayikra. Shenoisef al Hashaychais Parshas HaChodesh, Tzikres Derosh Chodesh, in addition to the relevance to the Parsha HaChodesh, which is a special parsha we read leading up to Pesach, as we said, it also happens to be Rosh Chodesh. And that is all about the first mitzvah that is given to us as a nation, which is to count the months, to renew the moon and count the months that have a Rosh Chodesh. So that Sheikh's Parshas HaChodesh, God the Parshas Vayikra, She'amra B'Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Also, we see in Parshas Vayikra that it is read on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, namely Shebashana Zu Mudgash B'Gilui Chatzar. The Kriyas B'Kol HaShlosha Sfarim. And we see in this particular year, it emphasizes and is revealed that the situation of reading all of the three Sefer Torahs, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and they're all connected to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. In other words, Vayikra is connected to the fact that it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, as well as the Rosh Chodesh, of course, and that the Parsha HaChodesh, which is referring to the Rosh Chodeshes. Okay, base. Okay, first we have to explain and understand. And the teachings of the Torah and the service that's connected to us in serving our Creator, and how these three Torah portions all correspond to this idea. And like it's known that all the matters that we learn are teachings and our service of Hashem. How much more so is something that's so important of bringing out three Sefer Torahs. So the Rebbe always emphasizes that every single thing that happens is hashgacha pratis, and we need to learn something out from it as it's connected to our service of Hashem. Where pratis is yoser, and more specifically. Today, the Havin Taichana in Hatza Solution Sifrei Torah Rosh Chodesh Nisan. שכל בשבס בשנים מיוחדות. ויש להקדים תחילה תוכן העניין לבצע 3 ספרי תורה בכל שנים. לאחר זה יש סבורה ההספה בשנים מיוחדת שבהם מוציאים 3 ספרי תורה גם ראש חודש ניסן. In order to understand this matter of taking out the 3 books of the Torah, we see that Nisan falls on Rosh Chodesh Nisan falls in Shabbat, in very special years. There's the preface in the beginning of this matter of taking out the 3 Torahs of all the times. Like before we're getting to the fact that it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan, just the fact that you bring out 3 Sefer Torahs is such a rare thing. It only happens a couple times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. And therefore the Rebbe says there's a specific significance to that. And then as well, there's a specific significance to the fact that it is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. בהקדם מדובר כמה פעמים שגם העניינים שהם אחס בשנה. ואבים נאמר ההוראה ומנתינס כוח בכל שנה כולו. So the fact that this happens is not only in a rare and an amazing event, but it's not just for the event itself. In fact, it's since we usually only learn one of the Torah portions a year, it's not only learning for the time we're learning it, but it gives the power for that entire Torah portion for the entire upcoming year. Like, for example, when we read the 3 books of the Torah of Simchas Torah, that's a blessing that we get for the entire year that's coming up ahead of us. And we see this also, the fact of bringing out 3 Sifrei Torah and Rosh Chodesh Nisan. וגם הם ישמע עליהם הוראה ונכנס כוח מצנסר 3 ספרי תורה ראש חודש ניסן שחל בשבת. So the Rebbe said there's a specific power that is blessing the entire year of the fact that it was Rosh Chodesh on Nisan, and we read all 3 of the Sifrei Torahs on that day. And it says, in addition to the learning and the teaching that gives us power from Simchas Torah, of learning 3 Torahs. So again, he's emphasizing the fact that this is a very powerful thing to take out 3 Sifrei Torah. And also he's emphasizing the fact that it is a specific occasion that it happened on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And we're going to talk more about that, God willing, as we get further into the Sikha. Good evening, though. Gimel. In the Hotzeis Sifrei Torah, Muvan, Mahitpalois, Shoemrim, Be'ez, Petchin Ha'aroin. Shetchilasan, Baspasik, Vihi, Mesa Ha'aroin. So the Rebbe said, first of all, the second we open up the Aron Kodesh, and every time we take out the Torah, and we start with the Pasuk, Vihi, Mesa Ha'aroin, Shesefer Torah Hashuv, Hu Bifnei Atzmai. Echad Sheba Sifrei Torah. And the fact that we're just taking out a Torah in and of itself is something very special. We're not trying to discount the fact that just one Torah is an amazing event. It says, Sifrei Torah hi kama nisyois ha'aroin she'az v'yoimru she'az v'yomar Moshe kuma Hashem v'yafutzu v'yachon yisum esana penecha. Tonight is Tes Adar. What is the relevance of Tes Adar? So when we take out the Sifrei Torah, it says, and that Moshe arose before Hashem, and all of your enemies will be dispersed before you. There's a special pasuk we say that when we take out the Torah, and we open the Aron, and this is connected to the service of all the Yidden. Oh, Shekoyach. That's right. Tonight is Tes Adar, the day that the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America. Big time. Yes. They landed on U.S. soil. And the famous story that I don't want to go off track, but just very quickly that the Frierdiker Rebbe, when he landed, he he had many Jewish leaders who kind of bent his ear and told him, "You're wasting your time. This isn't Russia. This isn't Poland. This is America. Things are different here." Da da da. And the Frierdiker Rebbe famously said, "America is no different." And many rabbis came to him and asking him this and that. He said his main, yes, it's chinuch, yes, it's learning Torah, it's all this, but his main mission in coming to America was for Hasidus and Hasidim, to raise up Hasidim and to spread Hasidut. So in that merit, we should have the full spreading to where it needs left to spread in Gula Shlema immediately. Okay, immediately. That the second we open the ark and we say this saying that all your enemies will be dispersed, it automatically nullifies any undesirable things. Sur Merah. And this is the idea of these two concepts. So it says when Hashem arises before Hashem, when he stands up, Akuma Hashem, when Hashem stands up, this is the idea of doing something good. And when your enemies are dispersed, this is the idea of turning away from evil. So Merava Asay type, basic concept in Torah. Turn away from evil, the things that are against Hashem, and do good, the things that are for Hashem. Hainu should say Sefer Torah, and the general idea of taking out a Sefer Torah is a general service of Hashem that's reminding us why we're here. And this is the great advantage of taking out 3 Sefer Torah. Excuse me. Excuse me. Because anytime we do 3 of anything, it's called a hazaka, meaning that it's a something that is indicative of being permanent, and therefore it's permanent and has an additional strength more than normal. Now, there's based on so the Rebbe said that taking out of the 3 Torahs, there's 2 components to this. Aleph, Chazaka shetzricha v'hidois v'yishana ba'avoda hatamidis b'kol shana v'shana hoitzei shlishi sifrei Torah b'simchas Torah. First of all, it's strengthening the service continual for the entire year, and this is like it's connected to the 3 Sifrei Torah of Simchas Torah, that it's giving power for the entire year. That's one thing that it does. And second, Hazaka שבאה באופן של הויספה בשנים שיש בהם קביעות מיוחדות. ויצא שיש לו ספרי תורה בראש חודש ניסן שהה בשבת. And not only is it powerful for the whole year, but the fact that this Chazaka, these 3 Sefri Torahs are coming out on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, has an additional power, as the Rebbe has spoke about several times since we started the Sikha, and we're going to see how this plays out. And the difference between these 2 occasions of taking out the 3 Torah is when we do it during the Rosh Chodesh Nisan that falls on Shabbos, Mudgash b'Kariyas b'Sefer Shlishi, Shabo Kriyim Parshas Chodesh Al Derek in Yom Yichad the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Chodesh Hazel Lechem Rosh Chodeshim, like we said earlier, because it's focusing on this concept of Rosh Chodesh. But Turkim no creates our special Sifrei by Simchas Torah, and when we do it during Simchas Torah, Mudgash b'Kariya b'Tchilas HaTorah. This is emphasize the beginning of the Torah. Bereshis bara Elokim, which is so in other words, the general mitzvah of or connection to God created the earth, God created the world. That is during the beginning of the year of Simchas Torah, when we take out the 3 Torahs. And the main service of the Jewish people in fulfilling the mitzvot is connected to Rosh Chodesh Nisan of counting the months. Both very general concepts. But Lashon Hazal, and as our rabbis teach us, לא היה צריך להתחיל את התורה אלא בחודש הזה לכם שהוא מצווה ראשונה שהציבו את בו ישראל ומתם פסח בראשית. As the rabbis teach us, that the whole purpose, of the Torah was specifically for the Yidden. Therefore, why doesn't the Torah start with the first commandment given to the Jewish people, which is in Nisan, that you shall count the months, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That seems to be more apropos as opposed to Bereshis. Because when we're learning in Simchas Torah, this is the opening of creation. And this is connected in Nisan to the first commandment of the Jewish people. So there's to say, Torah, that the difference between the taking out of the three Sifrei Torahs in Simchas Torah versus Rosh Chodesh Nisan, but Dugmas Hiluk Sheben Nisan the Tishrei is an example of the difference between the months of starting with Nisan and the months starting with Tishrei, right? Because we count the years from Tishrei, but we count the months from Nisan. Kiyadua Tishrei Inine Hanhaga Tevius. The work in the month of Tishrei is connected to the work within the nature. When Nisan inin hanhaga nisis. But the work that we do in starting in the month of Nisan is connected to a miraculous work, right? Because the work of the winter months is basically derusa delatata, meaning that we're the one who has to put the effort and then God responds in kind. Whereas the main work of the summer months, starting in the spring, is derusa de'ela, right? God took us out of Egypt. He is the one who moved first. So it's more of a miraculous type of relationship in Nisan and more of a relationship within the nature in Tishrei. That the way that the Jewish people conduct themselves and the whole point of everything of God was why God created the world is in order for the Jewish people to keep His Torah. And the very nature of the Jew and the very nature of everything we do is a miraculous nature. If you look through our history, any possible written accounts according to the nature, we shouldn't be here. We've been expelled from 129 countries. Almost every single country in the world has at one point in time tried individually or collectively mass genocide against the Jewish people. To this day, they continue to make up lies and horrible pogroms. I mean, it's unbelievable how you look what's going on in Mexico. What they say, over 10 million illegal aliens across the border. Terrorists, Hezbollah, they're murdering and raping women, committing the most heinous crimes. And Joe Biden just gave them, open the doors, come on in. Look what's going on in Haiti. They have hundreds of Americans stranded there that they can't go to the embassy. But what's important to them is what's going on in Israel. Who cares that your country's collapsing? You have to put your nose in someone else's business. It's mind-boggling. Anyhow, we're a miraculous nation, and we will continue to survive and continue to thrive, and all those who stand against us will fall, and this time they'll fall forever, and we will exist forever. So our very nature of being a Jew is something above the nature. We have a part of God within us. And therefore it says, and this is the meaning of the months you shall count, they shall count. Talking about the Jewish people, the first mitzvah given to us as a nation. As was stated by Yaakov to his children, and that this will set the Rosh Chodesh of Geula. This is the first mitzvah. Like it says, redemption also as it's done within the nature and also in a miraculous way. And now we see the difference in the way we take out these three Sifrei Torahs in Rosh Chodesh Nisan and Simchas Torah. Hazaka, Kalos Avodas Alpi, Seira HaRegel. In the time of Simchas Torah, it's a hazaka and a strengthening of our service as it's connected to the ordinary nature of how we operate. But avoida ba'ofen shal hanhagi hatevius. V'hoitzi shloisha Sifrei Torah b'Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Nesias hazaka al klados avodas ba'ofen shal haisfa al Seira HaRegel. And And the Rebbe is emphasizing again that the 3 Sifrei Torahs we take out of the month of Nisan is focusing on the miraculous service of how we are connected to Hashem. And please God, we know we're already living in a state of miracles. As the Rebbe has said many times, we'll go from the Geula of Purim to the Geula of Pesach. It should happen immediately. Hey. ויש לדבר הזה בפרט יסר בהידוק מלשון הרזעה החודש שזה לכם ומצוות ראשונה שניצבה בעוד ישראל מצוות דייקה בלא תורה. And the very first thing that was commanded upon us was a specific mitzvah. Not something to learn in the Torah, but a mitzvah. We're doing chiluk ben Torah, the mitzvahs. Like it's known the difference between the Torah and the mitzvahs. Torah is from above the world, from above the nature. ושאין כן מצווה אין ציווי לאדם איך לנהג בעולם כדי שהיה חיבור האדם בעולם עם הקדוש ברוך הוא. Whereas a mitzvah is something that we do in this physical world to unite us to the world and to our Creator. So the mitzvah is, generally speaking, more connected to the nature, whereas the Torah is more connected to something above the nature. וזה מובן בנוגע לחודש הזה לכם מצווה ראשונה שבכוונה מנהגת ניסיס. And this is interesting to see that the very first commandment given to the Jewish people to count the months was given specifically on the beginning of the month of miracles. And therefore, we're supposed to be conducting ourselves in a miraculous way, doing mitzvahs that are within the nature. So what does it mean? That the way that we serve Hashem doing mitzvahs is not something that's connected completely above the world. Like the learning of the Torah that's above the world. But in order that we conduct ourselves in a miraculous way, but that this is drawn down and penetrated into our service in the matter of conducting ourselves in actuality in the physical world. And this is emphasized in the months that you should count. This is the first mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people. They were not the first thing commanded to do to learn Torah, which is above the world, but rather commanded to do a mitzvah, which is connected to the world. But the Rebbe points out, God was saying, yes, the first thing I'm commanding you is to do mitzvot. That means you're supposed to be in the world and connected to the world. But when am I commanding you to do it? Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the month of miracles, the beginning of the period of God's connecting to us in a miraculous way. In such a way that we should lift ourselves above the ordinary natural order. What the Rebbe is saying is unbelievable. Let me finish off the paragraph, then I'll babble a bit. How much more so in the beginning of the year Tafshin Nun Aleph, and the year I will show you wonders. Because in this year, it's an ordinary year, if you will, but it will be in a way of miracles. It will be a miraculous year. The Rebbe says. And therefore, it's the month of Nisan that is helping us live in a way that's above the nature. And therefore, also, it's connected to conducting ourselves in a miraculous way throughout the entire year. So the Rebbe is saying a very powerful thing here. He's saying the very first thing that God commanded us to do was not to learn Torah, which is above the nature, but to do mitzvot, which means God's telling us, listen, you got to be in the world. I know you want to just lock yourself away and learn Torah all day. I would love to. But you got to be in the world. You got to deal with the world. You got to work. You got to do mitzvot. You got to interact with your wife, with your kids, with your neighbors, with your boss, with your whatever it is. You have to be in the world. And the Rebbe said, but the fact that I'm giving this mitzvah to you, the first mitzvah as a nation, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is a month of miracles, which is the month in which I redeemed you from Egypt, which our sages tell us will be the month that we are redeemed from the final exile that we're in now. Therefore, God is telling us, and this is a common theme in all of these sichos, be in the world, but be above the world. Feet on the ground, heads in the clouds. You got to be involved in what you're doing. But it's a tricky business to go into the world and put your whole being in the world and elevate the world without the world swallowing you up. That's the goal. And we see this emphasized in the 3 secret Torahs that were read on that Shabbat. And now we're going to break them all down. First one is Kriyas B'Sefer HaGimel. We're going to talk about is the third book that is written. I don't know why the Rebbe starts in reverse, but that's what he does. And that's HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem, Parshas HaChodesh. Ad Posek HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem, the Rishoi Chazal, Mishpachar B'Yakov Uvanov, Kuva Lehem Rosh Chodesh Geula, like we said earlier. This is the message of Yaakov to his children about the fact of redemption. But in Yinei Avodah, connected to the counting of the months. And the idea is that we should go out in a miraculous way above the day-to-day drudgery, grind, whatever you want to call it, and serve Hashem in a miraculous way, right? We had for bringing in shul the other day in Shabbos, we were talking about this idea about Shabbos. And some of the guys were talking about business, and someone corrected them and said, listen, why are you talking about business? It's Shabbos. Shabbat is a one time a week you don't need to talk about this. So listen, it's hard, I know, we forget, but so we're talking about how do you go into Shabbat mode. So what I try to do is I try to reverse it. I don't look at it as we work 6 days and then we have Shabbats, and throughout the year we have certain Yom Tovim, but our true nature of a Jew is Shabbat. It's Yom Tov. It's Hasidic holidays. That's reality. The fact that during the other times we have to work and deal with the mundane world, okay, because God commands us. But in other words, the real world, the real connection, the way it will be when Mashiach comes, will be Shabbat all the time. So I try to look at it reverse. The Shabbat is the real reality. And the drudgery we do during the week, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what our master tells us to do. The Hemshek by Parshas Benin Karban Pesach Al Shem Hadigilug Vahispicha. What is Boyisham Psicha V'Dilug? The Maramadinim Hadbar and Hagaf Nisis. And this is we see the whole idea we see in Pesach. That God lifted us up and skipped us, right? What does that mean? He did a dilug. A dilug is a jump, meaning our general work as you get in is like this. Layer by level, level by level, level by level, right? It's like getting stronger in the gym. You do a few more reps, a little bit more weight. Whatever it is you're strengthening, whether it's your muscles, your brain, your emunah, everything is in your work. You're going stage by stage by stage by stage. When Pesach comes along and God says, now I'm going to jump you. I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to, you're going to be a king. I'm going to fly you to the other end of the board. Because I'm God and I love you and I'm giving you a bonus. That's what happens at Pesach. He jumps us. We do a diluk. We skip over the normal, regular course of work. The second sefer we're talking about now is the sefer connected to Rosh Chodesh. And in Rosh Chodesh, who that the general work in Rosh Chodesh is connected to the normal nature of our work, natural order, if you will. Kedush Yemei HaShavua Atiluyim HaMelech HaChama Mahamalach Lahama, like it's regular, like the sequence, the traveling of the sun. Shumeira Tamid Leloi Shinoi, that it continues without change. It's I forgot the word I'm looking for, but it's sequence in the constellations. Shaychim la'avodas haregel bo'efen tamidim kesidra. This is connected to the fact, just like Rosh Chodesh is connected to this idea, that we are going regular, like a clock. We just keep going and going and going and going until Mashiach is here. Head down, work, 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 work. Head up, little breath. Head down, work, work, work. That's it. So it's a natural work without any miracles, if you will, attached to it. הגדול מאמור מצב קיימה שיחרה בשלול מייסה. שייכים לעבודס באופן המסופים כל החסם, הנהגת נסיעס באופן של חידוש. And the days of the week are dependent on the movements of the days of the month are dependent on the movement of the moon that will be renewed, says when Moshiach comes, and that the disk of the moon will be like the disk of the sun. בחודש בשבס ראש חודש הוא בחיבור בייס אופני עבודת תלמידים וסדרם. מספרים כלכתם בעבודת באופן של הדיחה והשפעה, נמשך פה גם בעבודת באופן של סדר תמיד. And we see that it is connected to the this concept of continual working within the nature. And now we're talking about the first book of the Torah we read, which is the Parsha of the week, Vayikra. And God called to Moshe, and he spoke to him from the tent of meeting. Perush Indian Korea Zo Hainod Ha'ara Vahashpa the Moshe Kadesh Ayazeh. That this is connected to all of our service because every one of us has a level of Moshe within us. Das Hamshich Mechinas Yehud or in Seif Berhud Lamata. And this is the level of knowledge of drawing down the level of unifying the light of Hashem, blessed be He, down here below and revealing Him in our souls in our individual way. That we know that the whole entire reason we're here is to fill our knowledge of our with God, and that He is the life of all lives, and there's nothing else besides Him. All that Moshe Kazura Ataki Ani and Yehu, the Hagam from the Kurazu, Naama all the Asi, Komakom Kog Za, Yesh Bakal Nefesh Misrael, the Kashira Mishra Hasoi, Bechinas, Bakashira Amitz Chazak, come on. And this is the idea that the power is in all the souls of every single Yid. That we have the ability in our power to connect our thoughts and our being to Hashem. And that with our very flesh, it says, just like in the days of Mashiach, it says, with our flesh we will see God. Meaning that with our physical body and our physical actions, we will have a deep connection with Hashem all the time. It just won't be when we're learning Torah, but in our whole being. Mudgash Meshach HaParsha, and is explained further on in the Parsha Shmini, which is we're reading coming up next, Parsha Shmini Shemalim Hu Rosh Chodesh Nisan. V'teitzeh Eish Lefanev Hashem V'yira Al Kol Ha'am V'yiranu Hasharas V'giloy Hashchina V'hamshech Lezeh Shleimas Avodat B'nei Haroin Dav V'yehu V'yifin Nechul HaNefesh, talking about the service of Aaron's sons that literally their souls popped out of their body because so badly they wanted to connect to Hashem. Shukrein B'nei Haroin Liyois M'lam Tamidash Haroin. Then it says we should raise up students like Aaron, that we should love peace and pursue peace. And the idea is to bring them close to the Torah. And that's why the Rebbe is emphasizing the work is not to be like the sons of Aaron who said, this is wonderful, the world you made for me, Hashem, but we want to go back up because we just don't want to deal with any of this. And it's better up there. It's warmer, less challenges. There's no challenges. And when you get to just bask in the light of God, that's great. God said that's wonderful, but that's not why I created you. You got to get back down there. And that's such a way that we should serve Hashem within the nature, but in a miraculous way. And this is the fact that Hashem spoke to Moshe in the tent of meeting. This is a service that's relevant to all of us. Furthermore, that the complete service in a way of that we want to inspire our soul, right? We're so enraptured with God that our soul is jumping out of our bodies, that we have such a burning love and fervor to connect to our Creator that we have to fight to keep our souls back in our bodies, right? And this is the idea that our service should be in a miraculous way, but it must be in this world and it must be eternal. In other words, it has to be brought down into this physical world. And it has to be according to the rules of the world that God has presented us. And it can't be a work of, someone who's just wild and crazy, for Moshiach, for a year, and then they fry out and they're done. It has to be something permanent, something eternal, something that sticks with us. And literally, this is the idea of transformation. And that's how you know something is permanent, when it's been transformed. You no longer see the vestiges of the previous evil. Melech Bris Elokecha, Bris Kersama the Melech, Bris Kasher the Ar, Aluminum, Ish Lamarsh, Kres Bagil Sifarin, who Lord Rak Hazaka, all of Boris boyfriend John Haggis Nisis. Ella, Gimel boyfriend Dargas of Boris and Haggis Nisis. So the Rebbe said all three of the Torah portions we read are three different connections of serving Hashem in a miraculous way. Aleph, the first one, which is connected to the reading of the Parsha HaChodesh. Which is include the general idea of service in a miraculous way. And the second Rosh Chodesh, that the miracle should be in a very ordinary, consistent, regular way in the nature. And the third part, Vayikra, is that it should be a miracle, but that it is revealed and penetrated in the world in such a way that it becomes permanent and eternal. So the Rebbe is basically spinning all these things into redemption. And then everything that we do, the Rebbe is basically letting us know. And again, just because the yearly time sequence is different in this year, don't think there's not eternal messages here, because there are. The time sequence is just what it is, but the message is eternal. And that's the idea of we have to serve Hashem in a miraculous way. We can't, let the nature dictate our actions. If you look in the natural course of the world, we shouldn't be here right now. We're living miracles, but let's live in a miraculous way. It's one thing to know we're living miracles. It's another thing to live in a miraculous way. And to do that, we have to bring that miraculous nature into our work. And how do we do that? Thank you. I'm tired. How do we do that? It's like anything else. All these things that I was telling us to do, we potentially could look at it and be like, oh, it's so far from where I'm holding. And is that how you're going to stay? Just say that's far from where I'm holding? No, because the Rebbe said this is how we have to do things. So how do we do it? You got to start, right? It's just like I use the analogy of the gym. It's something a lot of us can relate to. The first time you went to the gym and you see these huge guys in the gym, and you're like, wow, I want to look like that one day. Well, you got to start in the beginning, don't you? And it's the same idea. When our avodas Hashem, start finding a way to try to live in a miraculous way above the nature, to not look at the natural obstacles in front of you and think that somehow they're going to dictate what is or isn't going to work for you, but instead go above it. And the more we train ourselves to do that, it's like a munah. It's a muscle. The more we have it, the more it strengthens, and the more powerful we get in that work, in that service. The Enyan Zamurum as Gamba Haftorah, and this is hinted also in the Haftorah. Betchilasa Yevsiyayma Bedubar Oidis Hakash Rashaikus Hanasia Im Kal Min Yisrael, referring to the Nasis of the Jewish people. The Mal Mister Ha'avoda, the Nasi is also connected to Nasias, also connected to miracles. And his service is a way that's above the nature. And that's what the Rebbe is saying. It's not that I feel like living in a miraculous way today. No, the Rebbe is saying all the time we got to flip the switch in our brain and say, "Wow, we're in redemption right now. There's no boundaries. There's no limitations. Yes, I have to work in the world, and yes, I have to go according to the laws of the world, but I really have no limitations." You know, the I hate saying this, but I just learned it again in L'Kuti Diborim. The Midler Rebbe, someone asked him one time, how could it be that so many of your Hasidim are suffering financially? And he said, none of my Hasidim are suffering financially. They're suffering from a lack of bitachon. It's a powerful statement. He's basically saying that the only reason that any of his Hasidim are suffering financially is they don't really believe and trust that Hashem is going to provide for them in what they need. So they develop a mindset of, woe is me. I don't have, I'll never have. This is who I am. And he's saying, no, get out of that mindset. Get out of that mindset. There's in business, they call it a glass ceiling. A glass ceiling means it's meant to be broken, meaning that there's a roof over you, but you could smash it. We live within the confines of our own restricted minds, and our minds are dictating of us what we can and we cannot do. But our minds, our understanding is a body, and that body is limited to whatever you put in it. But you can stretch it, you could open it, you can increase it, and that's what the Rebbe is pushing us to do. Zion. Yesh lahisif, and there's the ad chazaka ba'avodas boyfen shohan haga nisis v'chotzei sishleish sifrei Torah v'Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Yigam benoga the bittul hashlish denir habiti ritzui. That we say not only is it elevating these amazing things, but it's also nullifying any undesirable things. Excuse me. And transforming them to good. Transforming darkness to light. Darkness meaning a reality where God is not present, or he's concealed, and light meaning a reality where he's revealed, not just in the world, but in your own individual life. The Kriya b'Parshas HaChodesh. HaChodesh hazeh lehem b'Rosh Chadashim. B'Yemois HaChadashim sha'alu hamehem b'Havel. Nikra b'Shem Nisan. Yesh bo beis ninun. And they said Nisan has two nuns. What do they stand for? Al Nisi Nisim, double miracles. Yesh l'mot shemamaz gam al apichois nefila. Turning or failing or falling or turning away from the gullus, meaning moving away from the bad and entering into a miraculous mindset to the geula. And that's, we see how the Rebbe is opening. This is the sefer he chose to open this whole sequence with. And that's what he's doing. Can it nullify one's past experiences and transfer the individual without regression? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sounds like a Farbrengen question. Absolutely. In other words, I I read a Baal Shem Tov story to my kids, Motzi Shabbat. Every Motzi Shabbat, we have a Suda Slishit and we do a Baal Shem Tov story, as is our custom. Not my custom, custom in Chassidim. And just to give you a little idea, there's a story about a time that the Baal Shem Tov, it was Yom Kippur, and there was a particular part of the prayer that he extended for an extended period of time, much more than normal. And his Talmidim asked him after if something special happened, because you know what the Baal Shem Tov, every time something like that happens, it's something special. And he said, as a matter of fact, yeah, and he told a whole long story, whatever, I'm not going to get to it, but it was a guy who was in a very bad place. He had a horrible past transgressions, did a lot of bad things. And one day he woke up, he's like, I'm a Jew. He just did tshuva. And it said on that Yom Kippur, he davened with so much kavana and so much power, and from the depths of his heart, and crying and taking everything out, that not only, he said, did his prayers ascend to the highest heavens, but thousands and thousands of prayers of Jewish people for the whole year that were not done with kavana, that were stuck in the lower rakia, in the lower heavens, that didn't make it up, all went up together with this. And the Baal Shem Tov said, I wanted to be part of all of those prayers of Am Yisrael. So the tshuva of one Jew not only fixed up his past transgressions, it helped bring prayers of thousands of other Jews up to heaven. So when things are done right and they're done properly and with right kavana, and absolutely anything could be transformed. The more the transgression, the harder the work it's going to take to elevate it. Yeah, it's mathematics. If you go down 1,000, well, you're going to have to go up at least 1,000. You can't go down 1,000 and go up 10, right? It has to be pulled from the bottom up. Okay. And that it says that all this negative energy will be completely removed from the earth. Because we're talking about the idea of not only are we adding all this light, but we're also pushing away the darkness. And the darkness, and that's what you see, by the way, in the world right now. That's why it's so horrific what you see. And I could sit and explain everything from transgender to men they think can have babies. Who knows, these wackadoos or things. Everything that's happening now has a root in Kabbalah. Which is showing, based on what's happening with the spheroids right now, all the confusion that's causing in the world between masculine and feminine energies, and negative and positive energies. All of this is coming out. All the garbage is coming out, and all that negative energy is coming out. You know how many people out there are screaming Shema Rachamim against the Jewish people and free Palestine? And you go up and ask them, what does that mean? And they have no idea. They've never been to Israel. They have no concept of the history of the Middle East. They have no concept of the Torah, about Jewish people, of nothing. People are just out there screaming, and they don't know what they're screaming. That's how much evil and hatred is coming out in the world, that people don't even know what they're hating for. But all that garbage, all that negative energy is being removed from the world. That should happen immediately. That creates the Rosh Chodesh, Kamar Zal. The Noga the Kurbano Yishal Rosh Chodesh of Yoy Kapara al Elai Shamatati as Hariach Bezed Neklalo is Garam Kapara al Ka Ninima Blitiritsi. This is nullifying any undesirable things. But oil the Shlimas Hafcha Ba'ifan is the Roisa and Nisar. And that's your question, Dov. Is it up until the point that you have a complete transformation, that all of the Averas will turn to merits. But the Zechio is mamash, literally to merits. All the Ragbadugmas Hatiko in Hamiut Hariach Lasi. The vote, and we see this as a foretaste of what will take place in the future to come. You are Levanak or Hama, like the light of the moon will shine like the light of the sun. There'll be no more spiritual darkness in the world ever again. The year to pontificate. Shubechibor the Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Rumaz, Moshe Kasur, V'yu Or Levanaka Or Hachama. The Kriya the Parshas Shavua, Parshas V'yika Sheba Mudu Bargam Odoyis Karbons. Excuse me. V'chapirim all in Yini B'li Teritzoi. V'oyitz V'siyim V'choisim B'parshas Yi L'Shama Bo. Meraz all Hashlimas Hapcha Hashrecha Nohara. And this is the whole idea of nullifying any undesirable things and transforming everything that is the opposite of good, or darkness to good or light. Rumaz gam. Mosh kosu v'lachol karban chasecha b'melch timlach. Kedua tamel mumram b'shavar divrot v'atimol. Zohin eskaf yechosh from the hora. V'chein haftorah the parshas hachodesh. Shenoisef lechach. Shebo the achri haftorah the parshas para. It's going after all the different haftorahs. We read this after parshas haftorah parshas hapara. Kudemes the parshas the Strifas Hapara, then Chazera as Yisrael, the Taher, Shnet, Huchim, Haroi, Rumaz, Medubar Sum, Haftorah Etzim, Oidis in Hafcha, that the whole Haftorah is also referring to transforming darkness to light. I have heard that Parshas HaChodesh, Mosifim, Posach, Acharoi, Haftorahs, Shabbat Rosh Chodesh, Posach, Acharoi, Sefer Yeshayahu. Again, talking about that it's from Yeshayahu, and this is referring to the idea of nullifying any undesirable things and transforming any negative energy to positive and darkness to light. Okay, we're going to skip Ches. Again, sometimes I just skip over letters that are, I say it every time because there's no such thing of something here that's not important, but anyways, it's a long sikha, and sometimes it's a little off the main path, if you will. Okay, Tess. Kashem shahadivarim oimrim b'negar lemer halachas b'pesach. And now we see that it's time to start learning the halachas of Pesach. Kach hu gam b'negar lenetinas hateim the Pesach b'chal tzarchei Pesach l'natzricha. And it's also important that we give tzedakah, and that all those who are in need have what they need for the holiday. Techilas eskois. And these are things we should be dealing with 30 days before the holiday. Not just learning the halachas, but helping provide for those who need it the holiday before. The Rebbe said there are literally only 2 Shabbos before the Chag. And therefore it's necessary to increase in our learning about the holiday and our tzedakah for the holiday. It changes everything. Not just halacha. When you I try to, God's help, at least learn 1 or 2 Hasidic Maimarim before each Hasidic holiday, or any holiday, I should say. And halacha, if you go into a Pesach or Purim or any holiday, you teskis, and you learn the halachas and the Hasidus, when you enter the holiday, it's like a geschmack. You're excited more than normal because you have an awareness of what you need to do, and you have a deep understanding of what it means. And the Rebbe said this must increase as we go on. And more specifically, that each one of us must do a righteous accounting and help others, and to figure out exactly what we need to do and increase. Whatever you need to do, the Rebbe said do more. Typical Rebbe fashion. After we give all that is needed to those who need for their festival. You should give 10% of your earnings. You should give 20%, is even better. And that we should, it's necessary to also do a righteous accounting and add on to the blessings that Hashem is providing for us in these days and this time. And we should increase our tzedakah and give more than normal. And to keep adding on to make sure everyone has what they need for the festival. And even more than this, according to the result. Even if you're giving 10%, you should increase what you give for necessities of the Chagim, in such a way that before you're adding on the blessings from Hashem. And Shiras with thought, the Rebbe said that surely when you increase and go beyond your capacity for helping others, that Hashem will increase and bless you with wealth and with riches. And even before we get there, as we're holding in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, ולחץ כמה וכמה בראש חודש ניסן, שאז נעשה החידוש בעבודת באופן של הנהג ניסיס. And the Rebbe said, how much more so that we have now entered into the month of Nisan. And as we have been saying for the last hour, we are now entering a time of miracles. Tzrik lechoser unetina saricha hachag yoser u'tevot u'regeloisai. Again, the Rebbe says we have to give people more than what is customary and normal to make sure they have all they need. In other words, Litain Yoiser Eser Yoiser Mechoimish Ad Bligvu. The Rebbe said you should give more than 10%, you should give more than 20%. The Rebbe said Bligvu, without limitations, you should give. Yesh the Hoisif Sha'al Pi Amar Le'el. HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem Mudgeshes Mitzvahs V'Yishainish Nitzavo B'Ha'Yisrael. The first mitzvah commanded to the Jewish people, counting of the months. Isaac Kashra Miuchad Im Mitzvah Tzedakah. This is, I don't know if you noticed, my energy level just started. Not that it was high at the beginning. I'm pretty tired, but it just started doing a little bit of a descent a little bit. If you notice, I'm starting to slow down. Sleep is catching up. Listen, I get up 6 o'clock in the morning, and by lunchtime I've already put a whole day in. So here we are, 9 o'clock, and I haven't stopped yet. So yeah, that's making me a little tired here. But enough about my sleep habits. Let's continue on. Oh, I skipped something. Mitzvahs, this is the first commandment given to the Jewish people, and it's connected specifically with the mitzvah of tzedakah. Shukulo can negative call him mitzvahs because tzedakah is connected to all the mitzvot. The call told me Yerushalayim he nikras v'shein mitzvahs stam. And in the Talmud Yerushalayim, when you talk about just the word mitzvah, stam, it's referring to the mitzvah of tzedakah. It's an encompassing mitzvah. And not only should we increase giving tzedakah and mitzvot, but we need to increase our learning of our Torah. That since giving tzedakah, it opens up our heart and our brain to merit 1,000 times more. Yud. Yesh more there is to say. I try. Yes, I really do. Kishura gam im hanesia shikresh bo beyoy. You have my creed beyoy marishain as karban nachshon be'amidav the mat Yehuda. So we know when we get to the month of Nisan, we read the portion of the Nasi, of all the head of the 12 tribes. We do that for the first 12 days of Nisan. And then on the 13th day, we read the general for everyone. And the first Nasi we read about is the offering of Nachshon ben Aminadav from the tribe of Yehuda. And we all know what he's famous for. Hatam shebekarvano isha Nachshon namar damat Yehuda lo nasi Yehuda. And it says that, interesting enough, he was from the tribe of Yehuda, but he was not the Nasi of Yehuda. Kavasar Hashvati, like the rest of the tribes. He was just a regular dude. He wasn't the leader. He wasn't the Nasi like the other ones. And therefore we see it's not only applying to the heads, to the leaders of the tribes, but he had an advantage even of itself, that he wasn't one of the head of the tribes. And we see in his name. Why is he called Nachshon? That he was the first one to have Mesiris Nefesh and descend and begin walking through the water. Milas of Mesiris Nefesh, the advantage of self-sacrifice. And this is what it means with all of your might. The Ma'al Adir Hagbala, Anagas Nisis. It said above boundaries and limitations in a miraculous way. And it's a powerful story. We know when the sea was as one, and Moshe held up his staff for the sea to split. Didn't split. Why? Because Hashem didn't want Moshe to be the one, just like on Koach Nisan, and we're coming up to it. And no, for the Rebbe said, I did everything I can. I'm giving it to you. It's your work. It's the same idea. So what did Nachshon ben Aminadab do? He started walking in the water. And he walked and walked and walked until the water went up to his nose, it said. And he kept walking. And as it was going up, it split. Just think about that. It's a very simple mushal, but just think about that. First of all, how many people would have even walked in the water? You'd be like, oh, it's not working. Moshe's standing there. It's not working. Must be a dud. Hashem must have changed his mind. Let's go back to Egypt. Or we just got to sit here and die. Because Moshe's standing there, nothing's happening. The Rebbe's standing there, nothing's happening, so who am I? Hashem says, the Rebbe said, you're everything. You're a whole world. You've got God inside of you. You can do anything. So what did this one Jew do? He said, I'm going to start walking through. Every step he walked was another opportunity to say, it's not working. It's not working. It's not working. Let's be honest. How many of us, as we started walking, if nothing happened, would have kept walking? How many would have even started walking? And if it wasn't doing anything, we probably would have turned around. Maybe when it got to our waist, when it got to our chest. It didn't split. The water didn't split. It was up to over here, over his nose. It's a powerful lesson. And this is what the Rebbe says, how to serve Hashem me'odecha, with all your might. In a miraculous way. What's his name? Rabbi Kudem, we saw at the LEC dinner. We were talking about shlichus, about work. He said, I don't envy you. You have a shlichus where you're teaching people who already know everything. I said, I know, it's not easy. And we're talking about, how it's hard sometimes. And he said something that's very, very smart. He said, the avoda is always 2 steps ahead of the bracha. In other words, we work, and we work, and we work, and we work. And sometimes we don't see the bracha. But then it comes. But if we don't work, or if we give up too early, it never comes. And that's what the Rebbe is saying. Me'odecha. Live in a miraculous mindset. Don't worry what the nature's showing you. Don't worry what is in front of you. If it's for a kedusha, yes, it pays off though. But not if it's for anything else. Only when it says the Jewish people are stiff-necked people. Not to God forbid be resistant, but stiff-necked in the way of we don't budge or move when it comes to serving Hashem. That's when it's time to be stubborn. That's when it says, I'm not moving to the left or to the right. And that's the idea, is that the Rebbe said to live in a state of miraculous reality, that even if the world is showing you trust and believe that God is with you and that it will be yes. And this is a lesson how we have to give tzedakah in the same way. Me'odecha. Me'odecha means me'monecha, from your money, from your pocket. Because that's your power, that's your strength. You work for that money. And God's saying, and still I want you to go above your comfort level. A wide heart. Above boundaries and limitations. Above what you think you're capable of. And then you'll see miracles. The miracles only come when we exhaust ourselves within the nature. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But no one asks me. I've seen it time and time and time again. Hashem breaks you. He holds you over the edge of the mountain by your feet. And as you're dangling, he pulls you back up. I don't know why he does it, but that's how he does it. That's how he rolls. He wants us to go beyond our comfort level, beyond what we normally think we could do. And then the bracha always comes, and it comes in a miraculous way. And the more we could do such a thing, the more we see these miracles. Okay. In addition to this, He himself, Nachshon Benidav, nullified any undesirable things. Why? Through Mesirius Nefesh, through self-sacrifice. But when we go out of it, when we show Hashem that we believe in Him above the nature in a miraculous way, He will reward us above the nature in a miraculous way. But when things get difficult, if we show Him I can't do it and we quit, well, that's the result we get back. He went right into the sea. And he nullified any decrees that were blocking anything. He nullified the concealments of the sea. We know what is the sea. It's olam eschachia, and olam esgalia is the dry land. It's the land of it's the place of concealment. The sea is what's hiding over godliness. This godly energy that we can't see. That's in our unconscious minds. The sea represents unconscious. The dry land represents conscious. In other words, we got to go to a place where we're beyond comfortable. That if it's got to fit beyond the recesses of our brain. The second, we're like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm not doing that. That's not a good stubbornness. That's when I've always done it this way. Why should I change? When we block ourselves off, we can't access deeper levels. And that's where the miracles happen, in the sea, in the concealed places. And therefore, we have the capability of transforming any negative thing to holiness. Because the sea is above from the dry land. And this is revealing the concealed world, which is above the revealed world of the dry land. And this is how we went out from Egypt. Because we went out from it says when we split the seas, and we really went out of Egypt in a real way. Because now at this point in time, we're above any boundaries or limitations. Excuse me. And the Rebbe said again, boom, same thing with tzedakah. Kapara the tzedakah. That it's atoning through tzedakah. Mleshin kapara. And it's a kapara, it's an atonement of your soul. The Alter Rebbe talks about it in the Tanya. Yes, you can 20%, but if God forbid, no one we know, but if God forbid someone was facing a life and death situation and they had to go in for a surgery, and that surgery cost $30,000, and they only had $30,000 to their name, would they say, I'm not spending all my money on that? Of course not. They give every penny they had to live. The Rebbe said it's the same with tzedakah, that we have to do sometimes over and above to atone for our things that weren't so wonderful. And through the giving of tzedakah in this way that's above the nature, we have the ability to nullify any undesirable things. And transform them to good. Not only that, tzedakah is great because it hastens the redemption, and it nullifies the exile, or the geula, and transforms the galus into the geula. And all these undesirable things that conceal over God will reveal them. And transform the sea that covers over God to the sea of redemption that reveals it. And then the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, like the waters cover the ocean bed. Zakobruch, Yud Aleph. Okay, we're ending. It was a long sikha, but it looks like it was just a lot of pages with short amounts on each page. So we are going to end with God's help in a few minutes because we're on the last letter. Interesting to note that there's 11 Yud Aleph sections in the sikha, and the entire sikha is about living above the nature, which is Yud Aleph. 11 connected to our holy Rebbe's birthday. Yiratzon may be God's will. Shachlata Tayvash Kibul Vikabo Ka Echad Vechad. Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Nisan the Chaysiv V'Konini Ha'avot. that every single one of us should take upon ourselves good resolutions to add on our service of God, including and specifically as is connected to the holiday of Pesach. By learning the halachas of Pesach, and to give the Pesach needs to all those who are in need, in a miraculous way. Timhar v'tizraz jabi'i techaf miyad es haskara hanagas anisias aida kodesh baruch. And this will bring immediately, and we'll see the reward from the miracles from Hashem. And then we will be able to fulfill the halachas of Pesach in a complete way. Ahal mikarbas karban Pesach v'yud nisan yudam nisan v'chiliasa v'leila tesvav nisan. V'frinjam kulano misubi would all be redeemed. V'kol b'nei Yisrael misubi al shulchan lo'ishal havihem shmel hamelech, and we will all be taken to the table of our Father, of our King. Melech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the King of all kings, Hashem himself, Bir HaBeria, in his city, the Yerushalayim, the holy city. And we will eat amongst the king, the base of Mikdash Shlishi, all main. Mainly. The true and complete redemption from our righteous Redeemer Moshiach is coming now, immediately. But Yom HaShabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayikra, and this Shabbos, Parshas Vayikra, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Shnes HaTarshin Aleph, Ayat Terat Shenana Areno Niflois. The year will show you wonders. Yom HaShabbos Chodesh, and on Shabbos. It's a foretaste of the Geula, where we will have eternal Shabbos. Oh, I can't wait for that. But Parshas Vayikra, and Parshas Vayikra, Vayikra al Moshe v'daber Hashem alav mo'el mo'ed, and Hashem spoke to Moshe in the tent of meeting. And this will be complete in the third temple, which will have a completion of all the previous temples. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Rosh Chodesh, Yisrael, and this is the renewal of the moon, just like it says that the Jewish people will be renewed like the moon, and it's Nisan is the month of redemption. Nisan Nigalim and Nisan Atin Niga'ala. The Geula, that in Nisan we are redeemed, and in Nisan we will once again be redeemed. And this is year of Tashinin Aleph. The year I will show you wonders. I will show you wonders in everything, mainly the wonder of Melech HaMashiach. And just like when it took you out of Egypt, Hashem says, I will once again show you wonders. And it will be wondrous because there will be no more exile. It will be the final Geula. There will be no more exile after. Because then Nasa had taken and all this is connected to the three Sefer Torahs, which is a Hazaka, which is connected to the Geula. And according to the Sakdan of the Torah, it says that Mizgal HaRoy, the Sefer Torah based on the Shlishi, it says that it's a very auspicious time for praying when we take out three Sefer Torahs. And this is, we should be praying for the true and complete Geula, just like it's connected to three also. It says in the end of the Haftorah, Beit HaMikdash Shlishi in the third temple, Shenachasei, Tiyah, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Moshe Suv HaHaftorah, Berishayim, Be'achar, the Chodesh Toikaf, the Kach Par Be'Bakar, taking about the offerings that we're going to give, Hanuchas HaMizbeach, and that we will sanctify the altar. And it says in the days of Melech HaMashiach, in the third temple, or Derek Mamila, it should happen automatically. Yud Nisan, and we're approaching Yud Nisan. And Beis HaMikdash Shlishi, and all of us will be in the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. Yud Dalet, excuse me, for the for Pesach. That I was saying we will all be in the third temple. Shemechayim b'minyan irach b'shishim b'avodasecha. Nechol shemin azvachim umin psachim asher yigel demam al kira milchava the Ratzon. We should all have the Pesach lamb and eat it with Hashem. Nura lechal sheir hadash, and we'll sing the new song for Hashem, the shir of redemption, the song of redemption. Al b'lesinu v'al p'tod nafshino, for redeeming us and rescuing our souls. Baruch atah Hashem v'al Yisrael, blessed Hashem, the Redeemer of the Jewish people. We should all have geula in our individual lives, and geula shlema. In this Purim, we should truly have a transformation of all evil to good. Hashem should avenge our blood once and for all and destroy anyone out there who is speaking against the Jewish people, was harming the Jewish people, was plotting against the Jewish people, was inciting violence against the Jewish people. They should be eradicated from the face of the earth. And we should have true redemption in Purim. Even long before we reach Purim, we should be dancing in the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. And all that you see that is negative will be turned to good immediately. God bless you. Moshiach Now.